right, welcome to Sci-Fi Express Lane. Jeff Carroll here. I wanted to talk about kind of what is a norm. This is going to involve a lot of things, right? It's really just writing the perfect society and dealing with the perfect society. What is the perfect society? All of that stuff. Also inspired by the TV show Pluribus, which means of many to one. So, you're thinking of the saying, e pluribus unus, or whatever it is. I don't know the exact saying, but it means from many to one, right? So, this is Jeff Carroll, Sci-Fi Express Lane. I want to get into it. I'm a writer, filmmaker, comic book creator, all of that. And I'm an activist, right? So I got a degree in African history. So, I bring that to all my conversations. But as a speculator, I speculate like most people do, but just a little deeper. So most people might think, what does a nice, a perfect world look like? How will we live in that? And as a science fiction writer, specifically a black science fiction writer, we look at the opposite of the world that we're living in all the time. And many times that becomes the perfect world, right? Or the conversation around what is the perfect world. So it's something that we've answered a lot. So with me, I have two experiences in my stories with perfect worlds, or worlds that are flawless, the best way to say it, right? And in the story, the TV show Pluribus, there is a world that is perfect, right? And I think it is imagined, of course, by the writers, because there's no such thing, that happen to be white, probably. I'll look it up, but I'm saying they're Western writers, and they wrote this world. And the world raises the question. Now, is the world perfect? Can we imagine a perfect world? I don't know. I do know there's references, right? There's definitely references. So my wife and I, another friend of mine, were talking about this show and what would be the perfect world, and would you want to live in it? And I answered, I think it would be very hard for me to live in a perfect world. Now, could I live in a world without crime? Yeah. But again, even that depends on what you consider crime, what you consider good, what you consider bad. Because the absence of bad is really interesting, because I actually, in my stories, learned to define bad as things that are not productive, things that are counterproductive. So things that are bad for the planet are things that are counterproductive for the planet. Things that are bad for me are things that are counterproductive to me, right? So of course killing is bad because that's counterproductive to humans, but so is drinking beer. You know what I'm saying? So is overeating. If I lived in a perfect society, there would be no such thing as donuts. Do you understand what perfect means, what productive means, what's good means? I have a friend that said they can't drink water. They don't like the way water tastes. How poisonous have our bodies' taste buds become that water, the God-designed beverage for us, does not taste good? Means we're so addicted to poison and things that are not necessarily good for us. It's not like they're drinking celery water. He's not drinking prune juice, you know what I'm saying, which still probably has a lot of sugars in it, you know what I'm saying? So again, water. Take my own mother, she didn't like drinking water all the time. She drank water, but when she, had diabetes, she had to learn how to drink more and more water, and she just got really, really bored with it. So I get it. I mean, for me, playing outside in the hot sun, water was what we drank. You know, I even go to the restaurants. I'll take that glass of water. I still will have my beer. I still will have my drink, but I drink that water. So that's my reference, right? Water being the absolute good. Everything else from there is a degrading from what is good, what is productive. And that's how far we have come. Some of us can't even drink water. So I say that there are references, right? I say there's references. What would a perfect society look like? A society without problems, a society without bad things, a productive society without counterproductive things. Will we have video games? No. Okay. Will we have a bar? No. You know, would we even have to work the way we have to work? Would we have a society structured the way we have it? No. So a lot of the things that we have now are things that we have because of people's greed, because of people's exploitation, because of people's lust for things that are not productive, right? I ask that question, right? And I'll argue it down until, you know, we come up with a full answer. I look at a productive society as the Bushmen of Sudan or Central Africa. You understand? I look at their society and say, wow, that is close to perfect as I can see. Their sole light day is working and fixing the house, hunting, whatever. And, you know, Pluribus raises a question of, I guess, what is animal cruelty? And while I'm not a vegetarian, I also don't think eating food that once was alive, that you might even have to unalive, right? To eat it is not necessarily a bad thing. I always reference my values now to the movie Avatar, the one with the blue people. And I reference Avatar because even in Avatar, they, you know, of course they feel that they're connected to everything, right? They're connected to the trees, they're connected to the animals. They don't really show insects a lot, but they're connected to them as well. And they still eat meat, right? So when they killed a animal, they honored it by praying over it or using its substance for their own nourishment. And to me, that's what you do. It's not sports fishing. You're not fishing just to torment a fish and throw him back in the water. You're catching a fish in the most humane way possible. You're not going to torture it to catch it, and you're going to use it. You're not going to kill it for extra exploits. If you're going to kill that whale, you're going to kill that whale or that buffalo to try to feed the whole village, even in some special ceremony. You don't even kill whales on a regular. You don't even kill buffaloes on a regular. You kill them just because it's the time of the year or it's a ceremony. And I think that's the best way to honor it. So when I think of like the Bushmen, that's what they did. There was no football, there was no basketball, there was no sports. They had so much mental stimulation that we can't imagine that they didn't need all of the things that we need in our society. So when people ask me, could you live in a perfect world? My perfect world imagination is a lot different than what we see the world as we see it now. I think one of the things that confused people as to what a perfect world could look like was the Matrix. And the Matrix wasn't necessarily a perfect world. The Matrix was a world that it was a dream world. You could imagine whatever you wanted and you lived in the Matrix. Now, of course, outside the Matrix, living in Zion was actually worse than the world that we live in now. And I think that was because the people who lived in Zion were mostly influenced and socialized with their values by the Matrix. And even though they lived outside of the Matrix, they had some of the same addictions and vices that the people in the Matrix had in our regular society. All that would make me living like a bushman difficult. Then I also think, not only, I always go to Africa, but, people will say, Africa, you just saying that because you call yourself an African or you're Afrocentric or whatever it is. But not only Africans, I'll use indigenous Americans. I think their society, number one, it was green friendly. That's why we don't see any of remnants of their buildings. Everything that they lived in, touched, their farms, recycled right back into the forest or wherever they were living in, like it was before them. So that is a beautiful green friendly society. But just like the Na'vi in the Avatar movie, or the people that the Na'vi was based on, East Africans, right? The indigenous Americans, when you ask them where they come from, they'll point to Earth. And they say they come from Earth. They worship or they respect Mother Earth because they say that's where they come from. And, however you want to translate it, that's pretty much where we do come from. We come from water, we come from the earth, and we evolved from there. We didn't come from the atmosphere. You didn't pop out of air. We didn't just drop here. We evolved, right? Or whatever you want to graduate it, however you want to term it. We're made of same materials that's found in earth, right? Just like all of the living things around us. So when they say they come from earth, what they're saying is, not only do they come from earth, but that's their mother. So you respect it as a mother. They didn't say that thing, earth. They said mother, right? Where we get the term Mother Earth from, Mother Nature, right? The one that gave us life. Fathers fertilize the egg, but we come out of the mother, right? So that's where they say they come out of earth, right? So for me, that's a beautiful transition to understanding, their world. Not only do they come from earth, they respect everything, all things earth. So they respect the animals, the trees, the air, the plants, the fruits. They do exactly the way the Na'vi do it. They'll pray. They do a ceremonial dance when they're sacrificing a buffalo, right? So the other thing that they do, their society didn't need buildings. Their society didn't need gambling. Their society didn't need big stadiums to fight and do all these other things. A lot of those things that we see in Spanish and South American culture come from things they got from being colonized, being socialized by the Spanish, by the people whose language they speak. Many of those practices don't go much before the Spanish involvement. And then, if we get into South and Central America, they have a lot more advanced societies, you know what I'm saying? The Incans and the Mayans, the Olmecs and stuff like that, but even those societies had a lot of ceremonial rituals that were greater than the individual. So again, it's a different society. They had collective behaviors, they had collective actions, so when it came to, I guess, how you would live, there's a lot more collective than what we have in our society now, where we think so individual, right? So again, I think when it comes to perfection, it is a different society. And I would love to hear what you think perfection is. A world without criminals is just one level of perfection. You still can't harm your body, so beer, wine, casual sex and all that stuff is out the window. You understand? So maybe you are addicted to poison and wholesome living is very hard for you to do. I know it's hard for me, But anyway, my name is Jeff Carroll, Sci-Fi Express Lane. Like, share, subscribe.